man, I don't know how you models do it. You know, I did a few shoot for like different brands and stuff like that. It's hard work.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Even some of the shows we get to do, I know like one of our photographer knows that I hate quote unquote modeling, and you feel awkward.
Yeah.
I don't know how you like. You gotta just have that confidence, right? Especially when you're in a public space, right?
And there's everyone looking at you.
Yes.
Kind of how we feel right now.
Yeah.
We've never like done anything like this, so.
Oh well,
or I haven't.
Yeah. Well, I think that the reason why when when I first met both of you, I didn't know you guys were sisters, and then we went to the Mazad event together, who are friends of ours, and then you're like, oh, see, it's creepy noises around here. I told you, yeah. And went to the event together, and you're like, oh, we're sisters. And Molly, you and I were in contact with each other before, right?
Right before, yeah.
Yeah. So you had some shirt design, yeah, and then you reached out and you're like, hey, I'd love to, wonder if you like, this shirt. Would love to send you one. And I'll be very honest, I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, oh, yeah, awesome. And I kind of went in, because here's the deal. Sometimes we get like weirdos that DM us,
I'm sure. I mean, when you're so well known, you're like, you get all these messages and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, it's always like the weird ones where they're like, hey, like be my friend, and I can get you 3,000 followers in 30 seconds.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So I was like, huh. And then I kind of dug into your social media. I'm like, okay, she looks legit. And then I really just loved your design, and you're right. Like and I'll be very honest, I'm not a pocket shirt guy, And, but then it made sense because that design was like really beautiful. And by the way, you have the best shirts ever, because as a big dude who has like a longer torso, it's always hard to find a shirt, and then your belly's always sticking out a little bit, or like even like when I'm wearing an apron and the apron goes around, if the shirt is shorter, then it like tucks up your shirt.
Yeah.
Like, like that's like dude problem. And then you bend over to grab stuff, and then, like stuff's showing, and you're just like, you're really conscious of yourself, which I do get sometimes. And so, but your shirt fits so well. The brand in your shirt fits so well.
I'm glad, yeah.
Yeah, but it is one of my favorite shirts, to wear. And I'm, just really proud to rep it, rep the stuff you're doing.
Well, thanks.
So,
yeah. When I made a shirt, when I started my store, I did a lot of designs kind of more for like the ladies. Then I wanted to also reach out to the guys too. And I think my style is kind of like the gender neutral style. Yep. So that's, I made all my clothing I made them, I pick up the sizes and make sure that they're unisex. They'll fit me, they'll fit my husband. And I'm glad that you like my design.
I love most of the shirts I wear are like t-shirts. So my mom's always like, you dress like a little boy. She always tries to give me shirts with buttons on it. She's like, you need buttons. You're like, you're a grown man. I'm like, yeah, but these t-shirts are so nice. Yeah. So Grace, how did you get into modeling, doing content creating, doing all these things?
Yeah, so I've actually always had an interest growing up to be a model. That's kind of where it started. Molly and my brother, actually, they were both into photography, so I was their model for all their like shoots, and that's kind of how I got to build my portfolio, was through Molly and my brother. And then for content creation, I've actually always been interested in that. I started YouTube at a pretty young age when it was like a big thing for everyone to do. I was just posting like covers and just some outfit videos, basic stuff that I'm still doing right now, actually. But yeah, that's how it kind of all started, was when I was younger. And I always had a spark for it. Yeah.
So what I'm really interested about is like, what's your background? Like, like, is this what you do full time? Is, like, what's your background for both of you? The question's for both of you.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
Sure. Yeah. I do this. I'm a full-time stay-home mom. I do this on the side when I'm not dealing with like the
how many kids do you have?
I've got 3 little ones at home.
Okay, what are their age range?
Let's see, 7, 4, and 2.
Best.
So I love them at the age right now, but it keeps me so busy.
Yeah,
They keep
wow,
me busy. So when I have time, I like go do my shop, and I started that because it relaxed me. That's kind of how I found my like
your escape.
yeah, my escape.
I mean, I don't want to use the word escape, but it's like kind of that moment where
like me time.
Yes.
Like me time.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So my me time was just like doodling and like creating things, and that was my getaway.
Yeah. Did you have an art background, or was it just something?
No.
Okay.
I've always liked art. Art was intriguing for me when I was younger. And then I just when I was little, I used to collect little like buttons, ribbons, and little like fabrics, and I'll keep them in the box, and I'll just like create I'll create like little clothes for my little dolls.
Yeah.
And then I was really into art, and art class was my favorite in elementary. And then just from there, I just kind of did things on the side, drawing, doodling on the side. Then I put that off for a while, and I was able to jump into it again after getting my degree in HR management. And I was like, I had time after school. I had time to just go back and do things that I liked, and I found that designing was what I really liked doing. So I just went off from there.
Yeah, it's so cool to see that juxtaposition, you know, like HR management, where it's like, hey, I'll be honest, like I've worked with HR many times with our job, you know, and it's just like, you know, like here I don't want to say here are the rules, but here are the rules. Here are the, you know, section 4B says this, and it helps kind of, you know, it's very structured.
Yeah.
And you go from there to the other side, where there's like this free flowing thing, you know, where it's like this creative. So it's super cool to kind of see that balance within your life, you know, to say like one part you're doing this, but then the other part you're kind of saying you have this creative outlet. Yeah. So Grace, like, how about you? Like you were saying, you started young with is that YouTube page still up?
It is, yeah. I still have like a few covers up. Some of my videos are private though. But yeah, they're still up there. I have been wanting to get back onto YouTube and try to start vlogging again, but like you said, I'm not like super comfortable with like speaking in public yet in front of a camera and walking around with that. But going based off of your question, I work in IT actually at a medical device company, and it's definitely really different from what I'm doing off on the side, because it's kind of like Molly. I have that freedom to have like the artistic side come out, but yeah, I work in IT. Yeah.
So from doing, like, I'll be honest, because like when we first all started it, like for Union Hmong Kitchen, I had a day job. You know, I was a fishmonger, so I worked at a fish store, like cutting up fish for people coming in, right? And then I'd do that during the week. And in the weekend, we would go do pop-up somewhere, or we would, do different things. So I totally get that, where you have to, I had a friend in college who said, you have to do the job you need to do so you can do the thing you want to do. And it's so true, right?
Yeah.
If somebody like a young Hmong, let's just say a young Hmong person comes up to you, someone who's like, 12, 13, says, hey, like, Grace, Molly, like, I'm going to be a designer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Or it's like, hey, I want to be a model. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. What would you say to them?
I would definitely advise them to kind of like keep that like 9 to 5 if they do have that, or like just that side job, to make sure you have finances coming in, because that's definitely a big part of it too, is the finances. Yeah.
I would agree. I would tell them the exact same thing, because you kind of need like a backup. And then until you figure out that you're stable in the thing that you love doing, then you can kind of let go.
Make that leap.
Yeah.
What, I think that, how many siblings do you guys have, first of all?
In total, we have 5, including the both of us.
Where are you guys in the birth
us.
order?
I'm the middle.
I'm the baby. I'm the youngest.
Grace. I can't even look at you. It's like my little brother being a baby. It's like, his name is literally Komong, which means blessing of God. We're all like, yeah, we know. Your name constantly reminds us what mom and dad thinks of us, or thinks of you around us. So being from, a big family like that, where people consider that a big family, how was it growing up? Like, did you guys find your individuality in all that? Because in what you guys are doing, there's individualities that you guys are doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've talked to many people who are, and I'll be very blunt. Like, I've talked to many Hmong women who are like, yep, I want to do this, but there was these expectations. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I'll be very honest, where they're like, I want to do this, but I put it on pause. I could go to the U of M here, do this, and then do what was right, because, for what my mom and dad desired and all that stuff. So for you guys, how did you like navigate all that?
Oh, I don't know where to start.
Just start somewhere.
I think, although like, our parents were very open to us, like supporting us in what we did. I think that was a big part of helping us find out what we wanted to do.
Yeah. But I think there is like that reality check too in the beginning, or like I was really into dancing. I just had like this big art side of me and this creative side of me, and I was into dancing and I was into photography, and I expressed how I wanted to do these things growing up, and they're like, well, the usual Asian parents, like,
it's not gonna
I
help
think
you,
that's
make
not gonna
money.
make you money. You gotta
Is it viable?
Yeah.
Sustainable?
And they're just looking out for us, and we're like, oh, I guess. So then that's kind of when like I put everything to the side and went with a different direction.
I guess in a way it is different for me because I am the baby.
Wow. Wow. No, it's coming out. It's coming out right now.
Because I guess in a way, for my answer, I guess they kind of learned to be a little more lenient as they went down the line.
All the older ones. By the time they get to number 5, they're like, we're done with it.
That's right.
Just go do whatever, and then if you get in trouble, your sister will help you.
But yeah, I think they still definitely push that, like, get the job, get have the financial stability to do something before you like really leap into what you want to do.
So like knowing that, how do you guys balance that? Do you know what I'm saying? Because this is my question, so follow me a little bit, is like there's like the Mika way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
This is what the whole thing of Hmonglish is about.
Yeah.
Like, right? We went to high school. You like think about it. Going to high school, you spend like 8-9 hours a day or whatever with a bunch of friends and Mika friends, and you're in that Mika Western world. And then when you come home, there's a switch you have to kind of switch, right? You don't realize you do it, but you switch to like putting in like the Hmong hat, right? You bokit guy, like you know how to address your aunts and uncle. Like that's all part of our tradition, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance that? Like when you were younger, and then how do you balance that now?
I think I'm trying to still find my balance in so many ways. Being Hmong, being a Hmong American, and then even like traditions and our own beliefs. Being home, I don't know if there's like, I feel like us growing up maybe our generation is a little different from yours.
Wow.
Wow.
You
know what? I don't use that way.
Okay, Mom. You just told me I'm old.
Like our parents are I guess they are a lot younger, so they're more modernized. And I think growing up we were a little bit more modernized. So like we weren't too traditional. What do you mean by
Well, I think that like so example of this is like my little nephew, Joby, right? He's as Mika as any white kid, right? He's like 10, I think, 9 or 10. Sorry, Joby. Like, dude loves his iPad. He loves his little games. He knows everything. I mean, he loves his comic books. If you were to talk to him, you'd think, oh, this is a Mika kid, right? Do you know what his favorite thing to eat is? And it's like the only thing he'll eat is like you take the rice and you take the kuah from zhao and pork,
Yeah.
and you take that kuah mo chahona and then little piece of the pork in there.
Mhm.
Like my sister and my brother-in-law didn't teach him, be like, this is the way Hmong people ate. He just like naturally draws to it, or my other little nephew Lukey, he's 7 years old. In the morning when he wakes up, he looks at his grandpa and says, Grandpa, can I have eggs and sausage and and rice?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? There's just something so naturally drawn.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder what that is, right? Especially with you having kids too, Like I kind of wonder what that is. Like, is there something that just like naturally about us, and even though as immersed as we are in the Mika world, that we'll always be Hmong?
Yeah.
And what is that? You know what I'm saying? So the question a lot of times is like, well, what does it mean to be Hmong? And I've tried to answer that. And a lot of times sometimes I get rejections where it's like, that's not Hmong, that's just every Asian culture. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when people do that, it makes Hmong, like being Hmong, kind of like, no, you're just Asian. We're just Asian.
Yeah.
Like even Hmong people have said that to me. You're just Asian. Like, the way we talk about food, right? The 4 elements on your table. It's, rice, meat, some kind of vegetable, and sometimes that comes in a kuah, and like, what's all, right? That you always have that 4 in there. And I talk about that, and I had pushback where people go, that's not Hmong, that's just being Asian. And I'm like, interesting. Like, I think that we're struggling with this idea where it's like, well, what does it mean to be Hmong? And Hmong people aren't really answering that.
Yeah.
And they're avoiding it by going, well, we're just Asian. We're just Asian. I don't know. So do you guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder, like, you guys growing up, like, what was that thing that kept you connected, knowing that I'm Hmong? Like, I'm Hmong. Like, this is a part of me, right? So I use, my nephew Joby for an example was, like, again, the kid is like as Mika as possible. But man, when it comes to that, he's like, Mom, like, I want the rice, I want the rice with the kuah.
Yeah.
And that's why I love, that's the one thing I love about food, right? It's just that narrative that we can keep talking about, but like when I see him eating that, I'm so proud of it. My mom can't speak English, right? And Joby doesn't know how to speak Hmong.
Yeah.
Right? But when my mom watches Joby eat that rice with the kuah, and she like loves making it for him, right? When mom watches him eat that, there's this joy inside of her heart where she's like, my grandson has not forgotten us. I'm still connected, even though we can't speak the same language, right? And so I think that there's something beautiful there. And I guess like that's what I'm asking is like, where for you guys? Where, did you guys have that, or was there a search for that? Is there still a search for that?
I can only think about food, I guess, now that I'm thinking back on it. It's always been food. Our clothes that we wore when we were younger, Mika clothes. Yeah, I guess when we come home, it's just food. Yeah. That's what I always look forward to coming home to. My grandma at the time was with us, and she'd always like have food ready for us after school.
Yep.
That's what I was looking forward to coming home.
Yeah, coming in from elementary, like that was the same thing with grandma too. Like you could always guarantee the door. Like she didn't know how to read time, but she knew when we were coming back.
Yeah.
So we walk in, boom, like the table's already set. Yeah. What about for you, Grace, in the things that you've done, the kind of life you've gone through? Like, is there that connection where you're asking yourself, like, how do I connect?
I think it definitely, like, I relate to food as well. And I think it's also like the mannerism, like that's still something that I even connect with, like the Mika world. Like, I know it's something that like Mika people don't really do is, how do I explain this? Like, I guess in the way like respecting your elders, like I still do that, like even through like the corporate world that I'm working in, it's I guess in a way it still balances out in that way. Yeah, you can
kind of carry that when it's still hard for me.
The eye contact too.
Yeah.
Like it's still hard for me. Like mo itu auntie to na mona eat at the restaurant, and they are like, okay, me too. Like where it's just like inside of me still like, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. Like I'll go change it right away. But in my mind I'm like, no, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
Or my uncles are always like, some of my uncles will always be like, oh, kachi hahaya, like ก็ only เนาะ and I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what? You guys work at a factory, like you guys, like I do this like, 10 to 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm doing, but there's still that, like like that respect, right?
yeah.
And you're just, I don't know. Honestly, like for me, I have to ask myself, do I want to like, brush that off?
Yeah.
Or do I still accept it because that's still part of my Hmongness?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I struggle with that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I can definitely agree with that. That's something like I'm learning to like learn to balance between like the Hmong culture and the Mika culture as well. Yeah.
So like for you, Grace, in the corporate world, if one of your managers like say something or like shoots out an email about something and you disagree,
it's hard to like disagree because that's like growing up we learn to not disrespect our elders and we learn to
Not argue back.
argue back, and so that's something I'm definitely learning, like and like through mentorship too. Like I have Mika mentors and they're like, like speak your mind, it's okay, like you can do that. And I had a manager and she had she adopted these Asian kids, and she was telling me like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, like in the Asian culture, specifically like Hmong culture, like we're told not to speak up or like to sit back, but she's like, don't be afraid to do that, and that's something that's kind of stuck with me, and I'm definitely learning to do.
I think as Hmong Americans, or just being Hmong and being more modern, we're starting to learn how to speak up. We're starting to learn how to make eye contact more. And like and I find myself like if I go shopping and I'm gonna go purchase my things, I'm like, I think back on like, oh gosh, was I even making eye contact? I don't think I was. Like it's weird. It's weird that sometimes not even thinking about it, you don't make eye contact, but sometimes you do. I don't know when. It just comes naturally.
Yeah. So one thing I do, which it's kind of funny.
Yes.
Like when I go to like Golden Harvest or any of the Asian markets, and a lot of the tellers, a lot of the checkout people are young Hmong girls, right? High schoolers, whatever, and they're very like, I don't know, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but they're like it's a mona, so they're just kind of like a little shyer. So every time I go through the check, because we run out and grab stuff all the time. Every time I go through the checkout line, I look them in the eyes, go, hey, how are you doing? How was your day? And they'll be like, and some of them, there's like systems error, does not compute, because like all the aunties and uncles who come through, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? And they just like do check out, and they're like, just swipe the card, and like, bye, or they don't even say bye, right? We got uncles and aunties like that, But the moment you engage some of these younger Hmong kids, and you go, hey, how are you doing? How's your day? I always just felt like now you have this now you give them this opportunity to be like, oh wow, you care about my day? Like, man, I've been here for 5 hours and nobody's really talked to me except for a manager that says, hey, your break is in 15, and so like I started doing that. And first it started out as a like kind of like a social experiment in my own head. But like I would see some of these kids all the time, the same ones all the time. Like when you go to the Asian market to pick up something here and there in St. Paul, and I would literally just engage in conversation. Like, hey, how are you doing? Like, how's your day going? And they're like, good. And then like they give you that blank stare, like I don't know what else I'm supposed to say because I go beep, click, beep. And then it's like they just put your card out there. Don't and I don't know. I feel like maybe because I'm older and I'm getting older, it's just like, that, I call it that social confidence, right? To be able to talk. So for you, Grace, like, did it take you like to be able to switch the switch in your head to be like, speak my mind if you feel like, speak your mind if you feel like in a corporate world, something like where it's like, I don't agree with this, or I want to voice my opinion about this. Like, was that hard to do, or are you still learning, or
It's hard to do. I'm definitely still learning that. But I think with being in corporate for so long now, I've always had that advice come from me, especially from Mika people too. And I guess it's culturally different, and I think they do see that, and that is something I'm definitely still working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing about being able to engage with your manager and say, here's my opinion, here's what I think?
I think it's just I guess like being Hmong, you're scared of the rejection. And I think that's what it is. But that's definitely something I'm still learning too. Yeah.
Molly, for you, when you were, working in HR and doing all these things, did you deal with that kind of stuff, like engaging with others?
I actually didn't have like a title under HR, but I did do a lot of HR tasks. And I think for me, it depends on the relationship I had with my boss. And I think we had a pretty cool understanding of each other. So I felt more comfortable speaking out. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question I have is going to be a little, I don't want to say controversial, but I'm a dude, right? So I'm a Hmong dude. And there's always this theory that Hmong moms always love their sons more than their daughters, or they let their sons get away with stuff, which that's not true, by the way. When I grew up, it was not true at all.
How many did you have sisters?
Yeah, I had one sister.
One
she was
sister?
like loved like nobody business. No, I mean, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you've heard of that kind of,
Yes.
I don't call it stereotype, but that kind of narrative, right?
Yeah.
That, like the sons get away with whatever and the girls have to, just be at home and do whatever, and like woman, like, idea and all that junk, and then I think that what started happening as the millennials and the millennials, as they started getting older, they started embracing the whole idea of palai, right? If we're honest, right? Yeah. Which English translates to like a almost, I don't know what's palai. It'd be like
a bad girl. Yeah.
Yeah, like a bad girl or like a badass girl, type
yeah.
thing. Where it's like you reject all the Hmong women / girl, like, whatever, yeah. So you be you, right? You do you.
Yeah.
And there is this, I would say this movement, and I say this with all due respect, hear me. There's a movement of it where I think it's like a pendulum swing, right? So one side goes over here where it was just like, no, you're going to stay home. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. And then as these girls start seeing like, wait, my brother get away with everything. Like, wait, what? Like, I'm here. I'm doing everything, and then it's like, oh yeah. And then we also tell you who to marry. We also tell you, this is the guy, this is the family, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Then there's the pendulum swing is the kind of, I call it the Baha'i movement, right? And so like, one of the things that I would love to ask you guys is like, what are your thoughts on that? Just kind of that idea, like, I don't have a right or wrong because, again, like I said, I'm a Hmong dude, and I'll be very honest. I'm privileged in a couple things, just being a Hmong dude. I think that for me to say to like, I grew up with some real strong sisters who were just like, yeah, like this is tough, but we're gonna get through it. Like I've been the way that my father has raised my sisters. They've been like, hey, like this is tough, but we can do this. And so for me, that's the world I grew up in. I also grew up in a world where like I had a mom and a dad who says, whatever you can dream of, just work hard towards it, right?
Yeah.
And so I come from a whole different narrative, and I get that, and I acknowledge that. But for others, for other Hmong people, and especially Hmong women, they didn't have that, and they had to fend for themselves, right? So I'm just curious in your thoughts on all of that. It's kind of a big, broad question.
Yeah. I think we experienced that. We have one brother. Everyone else, we have sisters.
Should we call them?
So, I think that's what we experienced. We one brother, and maybe because he was the only brother, he was kind of like was able to do a little bit more. And then like the girls, we had to like stay home. We had to learn how to cook, clean,
wake up early,
the usual.
Yeah.
I think from our experience, that is true. I don't know what you experienced, but
my sister did all that stuff too. Like, maybe I'm just wrong because I wasn't in her shoes, because, but there was from my viewpoint, this is my viewpoint, and I could be wrong, and if I am, like, it's great, I'll learn from it, you know. But she, I mean, I've always thought of her as just strong, you know, like strong, courageous, brave, where it's like, there's nothing where if she doesn't put her mind to it, like, she grew up with all brothers. And so, like, when we played sports, like, yeah, you would treat you like one of the dudes, you know? And I've always felt like we trained her well that way. It was bad. I mean, it was bad. Like, we were playing sports and, like, I knock her down. I'm like, dude, get up, you know? That was really bad, you know? But again, I also think, too, that one of the things that I started noticing is, like, that pendulum swing, right? Where it is the rejection of, and I say this with all due respect, Hmong traditions, you know, from women. It is that rejection where I'm like, no, you know, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be some, you know, kind of servanthood slave to this family while my brother gets away with all these things, right? Yeah. Did you guys go through that? Did you guys think about that? Or, you know what I'm saying, like, growing up and seeing that quote unquote unfairness?
I think we did feel a certain way towards it, but we kind of grew up like good kids, like being obedient, listening to mom and dad, and we couldn't really, I think we were too scared to like step out of that. So we weren't really like, we didn't
rebel against those like rules, but I think that movement, I don't think it's bad, or I don't think it's a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's bad. Or wrong. I want everyone to hear me on that.
Yeah, yes. I think that can definitely, you know, especially young Hmong girls can learn how to be independent and stronger that way too.
Yeah. And
I think more parents now are seeing that it's okay. They can go have fun. They can do these things like the brothers do, and I think in the beginning, I think it's all about face too for the parents. Like if my daughter if my daughter is doing this, we're not going to look good. So I have to make sure my daughter is not doing these balai stuff. Yeah. So
I mean, that's the word some parents use. Like, what about some of your girlfriends? You know, like people you know, cousins and stuff. You know, female cousins and stuff like that. Have you guys ever talked about this? Have you guys ever just kind of like, you know, riff on it? This whole idea?
Not really, but I did know a lot of like girlfriends that just went off and did what they want, but their parents were okay with it too. So I don't know if it just depends on the parents, like specific parents, it's how they feel about it. But the girls that I knew, they had a lot of older sisters. So maybe the older siblings kind of paved the way for them.
Are you trying to say something right now, Molly?
Not really.
Grace, you are who you are because of me.
Actually, I think because I was like the middle child, my sister had like, it was more rough for my sister. Like she paved the way for us. Yeah. But then it kind of went down like.
What are some of the examples of that?
Like the cleaning and cooking. I think my sister did a lot of more like the cleaning, cooking.
And that's your older sister, right?
Our older sister, yeah. Okay. And then when it came down to like me, I also did it, and then we have a sister between us who kind of my parents were more lenient about. And then
by the time it gets Grace, she was just sitting there with her nails out, like you guys are painting her nails with your toenails. She's like, oh, "What is this? I gotta go on YouTube right now, guys." Yeah. Basically,
pretty much.
Yeah. Do you like? So like for you, Molly, being a mom, you know, and having your kiddos, how do you feel like there's something on your shoulders to set the example or set a curiosity of what it means to be Hmong for your kids?
I always go back to like Hmong food. I think Hmong food is going to be forever. It's going to always be there. But like what you're talking about your nephew, I think they're super mika too.
Oh yeah.
Like they'll pick pizza over like some Hmong food. Yeah. But they always go to like the broth and the rice. Yeah. That's when they think about Hmong food, that's what they think of. Yeah. The boiled chicken with herbs. Yeah.
Do you want to keep Hmong food in the mix of your family just so that these kids
I only cook Hmong food.
Ooh, what kind of stuff do you do?
I do lots of stir fry. And I think the ingredients that I use is more like Hmong.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Like, what's in your ingredients? Now I'm just curious.
Are you gonna give me some of your secrets?
No,
too?
I got no secrets.
I think like nampa,
Oh,
the fish sauce,
Yep.
the oyster sauce. Those
Did you
are
know
like
oyster sauce doesn't technically have oyster in it?
really.
Yeah, if you
What's
read in the
in
back, it goes. They say if you read the back of it, it says it has. Trust me, as a restaurant, we had to go through this like 20 times. It says it has. It's made in a facility with oyster product, but technically it doesn't have oysters in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just sounds like makeup products to me.
Yeah.
Really? Ooh.
Like
I don't know much about makeup products.
like
so.
cruelty-free makeup.
Oh,
like
yeah.
how they make the makeup.
Oh, you're like, oh yeah, some insects died for this. How do you think you get this glisten? It's the cockroaches. Yeah, so you're doing that. Do you do like the cabbage and pork belly? And then
Yeah.
that's like one of my favorites,
Those are
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
right? What is it about just like shredded cabbage, pork belly, moquina, and then just like, man, fish sauce or oyster sauce, salt and pepper, and over some rice.
Yeah.
You know, and the rice always has to be steaming. So
Yeah.
you put that right on the rice, it keeps it warm.
Mhm.
And then I just tell people, man, like you become like an archaeologist. You start digging, you dig to get the bottom of that bowl. It's so good.
Yeah.
It really is.
But it's like something where it's like on a restaurant level, you try to sell that, and people are like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, wait, this is it? And it's like,
just-
no. Do you think it's nostalgia?
It could be. I definitely would agree with that. Yeah, because like food, it goes back to like our grandma. And
Childhood.
yeah, for sure.
What is the most, we're kind of skipping around here, but I'm just curious now. What is like the most like quote unquote Hmong dish your grandma made for you guys?
Gosh.
I can't.
Steam rose.
Which one?
Steam rose.
Oh, yeah, the color balls.
And
Oh,
The
Foucault.
steam.
Foucault.
Yeah. Do you know why the name Foucault is Foucault?
No, why?
Because, so, you know, the way that they make pho is they basically do that. Like it's the same context, and they put it over, and then when it fully cooks, they take it out and they cut it into like noodle shape.
Oh yeah.
So Hmong people call it Foucault because pho, like basically it's pho noodles that's
Yeah.
uncut. That's, you know, in a circular crepe. Gao means roll.
Oh, interesting.
Gosh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, like, for example, I mean, we're kind of jumping around. I don't really care now. But, like, if you really think about it, like, language, the Hmong language, it's so interesting how Hmong language works, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times we don't have words for things, so we put a bunch of words as descriptors.
Just yeah,
Mhm.
just yeah.
Like, you know, I heard this from my grandma who taught me, like, blang chana. You know,
Mhm.
it's a noodle dish, right? Blang
Mhm.
chana. It's a basic noodle dish. Now, some people are like, oh, you're wrong. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, grandma told me, so, you know, make it up with her, but she passed on like 10 years ago, so you gotta have to figure that out. But blang cha means, like, blang means to
Mhm.
like brush.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cha is a blanket, right?
Yep.
So when they make the noodles, like, you know, either the cellophane noodles or the rice noodle for kapongna,
Mhm.
when they get to dry it, right, when you get in the water, you pull it up, right? It looks like a brush.
Mhm.
And hmok blang and cha means blanket. So it's like almost like a blanket you're laying down.
Yeah.
Because you do that so the noodles don't all clump up together.
Yeah.
So they would take it, you know, or sometimes they would roll it into little balls, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Blang cha.
Yeah.
And it's just the word for noodles.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's what grandma told me. And I'm like, that makes so much sense, right?
Mhm.
So you think about like the Hmong language and how it's all these other words that we use to connect each other. I don't know. Side note. I don't know. I get excited about that. The Foucault thing like blew me away. I'm like, oh, like,
Isn't that interesting though? When you find out like meanings of Hmong words, and you're
Mhm.
just like, oh my gosh, why
Yeah.
did I think of that?
like pandao.
Yeah.
Think about it. Ba, flower,
Yeah.
dao, cloth.
Cloth,
Mhm.
yeah.
You know, or I would even say ba means like blossom, like to bloom.
Mhm.
Lupana, lupa, and dao, cloth. And if you look at the textiles and you look at how they sew, it does look like a cloth,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
a flower blooming in a cloth,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So like I think about that, or even the word nyajong, right?
Mhm.
I broke it down. I thought about it the other day, and I'm like, nyajong, like when people go nyajong, right?
Mhm.
Nyajong is actually a call to come in and have a good time. Nya, stay. Zhong, good. Like good stay. So when you're greeting people coming in, Nya Zhong is deeper than just greetings. Like hello, you know, it's actually it's the welcome of people coming in. So one of my great aunts told me the story of, you know, back in Laos, where it's like sometimes you'll go to a different village, you know, to go, you know, meet some relatives or whatever, and you get caught. You get so tired and you didn't bring any food, or if you don't have any water, you hit all these other villages, and in Hmong tradition, you see somebody coming in and you want to give them water, you just say Nyajong, like have a good stay, come and have some water. So Nyajong is deeper than greeting. Nyajong is actually saying you're employing them to come in, sit down, and you know, and have a good stay here with us. You know, and so that's why one of our companies is named Nyajong LLC. You know, it's this idea that what we're trying to develop here is for you to have a good stay, a welcoming of the guest.
Yeah,
you know?
That's deeper than just
greetings,
hello,
right? And I think that's the richest in Hmong culture, in especially Hmong language. You know, we dig into it. For you guys,
I feel like people can take that for granted. Like if you really don't think about it.
I think that's important. Why, like, I think about my niece and nephew, and just like teaching them. Like right now, like there are so many programs right now on apps you can find on your phone that are Hmong language apps. You know, and they'll do it in Hmong Do and Hmong Joa and everything. And I kind of flashcard through it. You know, like, I think I'm pretty decent in my Hmong, but I'm like I flashcard through it just to remind me, and I really think, you know, like what does this really mean? And that's why it's like very important for us, you know, to have Hmong words in our menu.
Yeah.
You know, like how cool is it that Hmong people who don't speak English or can't read English comes to your restaurant and they're like, oh yeah. And I think it's more powerful than that, right?
Yeah.
So that when Mika people come in, they're like, how do you say that? Now, as Hmong kids, we get to be the teacher.
Yeah.
We get to be the one who tells them, like, hey, this is it. Because growing up, trying to be Mikana, we always want to be on the in, right? And so you try to dress the same way they do. You try to talk the same way. You watch the same shows, right? So it's like, I want to be an in at, you know, I want to be in the circle. But like, what if we start teaching our young Hmong kids that like, no, we already have a circle, and trust me, they want to be in the circle. So you are no longer, this kind of goes back to Hmong kids, right? Being a little bit shy. But it's like saying, no, actually, you've had the power all along.
Yeah.
You know, like you're the one that could turn to your Mika friends and goes, oh, that's Nyajong. That means hello. Or, you know, like our meals here, we call them Zhongxia meal, you know, happy meals. You know, oh, that's Zhongxia. Oh, how do you pronounce that? Oh, Zhongxia. Or saying the word ma. Like, what does that mean? It means food or rice. And now you have become, these Hmong kids now have become the people to say, hey, let me let you in on a little secret of my culture. You know, I firmly believe that's how we build confidence in young Hmong kids. You know, and to stray away from the language, it stinks.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, we have a few Hmong friends who, you know, this kind of struggle for them with the language. So it's literally, you know, getting flashcards of like for your kids, you know what I'm saying? Like kid flashcard, like cat, dog, but like in Hmong, you know, like, you know, and stuff like that.
I have a couple Hmong books for my little kids.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, so I guess this comes to my next question is, how good is your Hmong?
Not that good. But I do try speaking it. Yeah. My husband's Hmong is a lot better. But
so do you go, let him speak for us?
I just don't want to embarrass myself. But we found that I actually speak more Hmong at home.
Like with your parents or like with your kiddos and your
with
husband?
My husband. Oh, yeah, to him. I speak Hmong to him more. And it's so weird. I'm terrible at my Hmong. He's pretty good at Hmong, but I speak more of it at home.
Is that when you two try to spit game at each other in Hmong?
What? I'm
sorry. Just try to spit game at each other in Hmong?
He will probably win. He'll win. Yeah. But I think I almost feel like I was speaking Hmong because of our grandparents, and then our grandma, who we only had left for who just passed away a couple years ago, I almost feel like I don't have a purpose to like speak Hmong anymore. But to keep up with it, I don't want to lose that. Yeah, I don't want to lose that.
How about you, Grace?
Me, I'm not very good either. We definitely were very fluent when we were younger, but I feel like, I think ever since we went, at least for me, when I started school, you know,
You're gonna blame school. It's those universities you sent me to, mom and dad. No.
But at a young age, you know, because that's all you spoke at school was English, and at home we would only speak Hmong pretty much growing up. So I think it kind of just started at a very young age where I was like kind of losing it.
Do you understand it though?
I fully understand it. Yep, I fully understand. I can, because we're green and white, so I fully understand both.
Ooh.
And so I can speak, but I'm not. Yeah.
we are. Our family is. Yeah.
I can.
Are you? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, are you like you guys?
So my mom's side is my dad's side is white. My mom's side is green.
Okay.
We're talking about the dialects.
Yeah.
And people one time some like my girlfriend heard me say, and goes like people like your skin. I'm like dialects, bro, dialects. And they're like, what do you mean dialect? I'm like, you know, when you go to the South, they speak funny. He goes, oh yeah, there. And I'm like, you know how they think in the North you speak weird? Yeah, okay. He's like, oh okay, oh there. You know, yeah. But my mom can go back and forth. A lot of my siblings can go back and forth.
Can you go back and
No,
forth?
dude, no, not at all. Like I try, and I'm like, this sounds weird. You
What
know?
do you mostly speak?
Oh, Hmong da.
Hmong da,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, it's like Hmong glow.
Hmong glow.
Like Hmong jua, Hmong ling. You know,
Hmong ling,
it's like,
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. But literally, I can't. My siblings can. My mom can. You know, though, like my mom will just switch between like her sisters and brothers, and then like, you know, if it's like dad's side of the family, just
Yeah.
back and forth. And sometimes I could tell when my mom's been speaking to her, or been hanging out and talking to her older sister, where they're like two peas and pods, are like best friends. I could tell when they are, when like she calls me, or like I call her, she picks up the phone and she speaks to me Hmong jua only. I'm like, oh, you've been on the phone with that boy for a while. Like you haven't switched that yet.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah.
We had a, I don't know about you, but I like had to learn that growing up.
Like the back
Yeah.
and forth, or
Yeah.
oh,
Like I actually didn't even know. I can't remember being taught this is Hmongling, this is
Yeah.
Hmongkla. So then I kind of
Hello? There you go.
I kind of like spoke both of it.
Yeah.
And then I mixed it.
Yep.
And
Did
then
they look at you? Did people look at you funny?
no.
Oh.
No one really told me except our grandma,
Yeah.
our dad's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she our
She would
dad
always
is
correct
Hmongling,
us.
and then
Okay.
our mom is Hmongkla or Hmongda.
So primarily at the house, you guys speak Hmong jua, Hmong ling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did notice. I noticed that my mom's side spoke a little different dialect than my dad's, but I think we grew up speaking Hmongling, and then sometimes I would switch, but I never noticed the difference until junior high.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought like in English there's past tense, so I used
Oh,
a
yeah.
dialect.
That's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I will go on that
Yeah,
with you.
so I didn't know that there was a difference. So I would, for like past tense, I would put in that other dialect into
Oh.
that word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of like I'll put like Hmongda into Hmongling for the past tense, and I didn't know that wasn't a thing until much later. I'm like, well, no one ever told me.
Yeah.
So now I feel silly.
Well, I also think too that like nobody really taught us Hmong grammar. That in the Hmong world, there's no past tense, present tense, right?
Yeah.
So this is like true confession time here, but so I feel like an idiot a lot when we do like one of our shows. I do a lot of voiceovers for it, and they will sometimes they'll give me, you know, like there's a teleprompter, so I read the teleprompter, or like, so, you know, a producer will send me the script, you know, or whatever, and I'll see it in the teleprompter, and I don't put the S on things, you know, like you know, like cherries. I would just go cherry because it's like, oh yeah, we have many cherries here. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the way I say it in my mind is, so growing up, it was always like, yeah, can't speak English good. You know, it was like my report cards always said that. And I would just feel, and this is one of those things like the other day where it's just like in my heart where I just feel like an idiot. And I'm like almost 40, right? And so I'm reading these, you know, I'm reading the teleprompter, or like, you know, you're in the middle of like, we were in Hmong village and I was reading these scripts. And there's like all these little things. It's like tones, you know, and then you have to say it a couple times with different tones and, you know, and inflections and all that stuff. Well, Hmong people, we know about inflection, like "Chichona," you know. what does "chichona" mean? Hurry up. What does "chichona" means? Like, hurry the frick up now, or you're gonna get whooped. You know. I get that, you know. But then sometimes I try to throw that inflection in there, and it just sounds to me like me going, you know. And you know, bless the hearts of our producers, like they would stop me mid sentence and be like, "Don't forget the S," or "Hey." Like we'll do a whole line and be like, okay, but you forgot the S here and here. And I just like, sometimes I rage inside because it reminded me of these teachers growing up being like, Yia's English is not, like Yia's English needs to be worked on. He has to make sure he practices with, you know, his parents at home. And be like, bro, my parents don't speak English. So we don't we can't go home and practice this, you know? And there was this thing that hit me last week where I'm like, oh, like that's where my frustration is coming from. Because I just like, so literally, and especially enunciation, right? So you have to enunciate everything, especially when you're doing TV. If you don't enunciate, it just sounds like So sometimes when you enunciate a line like 10 times, words just sound weird, you know? But that was the thing though. Like I was like struggling where I'm like, and I just felt like a bad student, you know? And I remember like standing there at Hmong village and I'm like, okay, just, you're not a bad student. It's okay. Like you have to, and I explained that to some of the producers. And I'm like, we don't have past tense growing up. So to me, or present, past tense, whatever. Like to me, it's just like, yeah, like this makes no sense how this is done, you know. And that's why it was hard, you know. And then that's my question, like learning English for you guys. Did you guys just pick that up real fast?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for us, we
my
learned
grammar
pretty
is still
quickly.
not perfect.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I think I learned it pretty quickly too. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're the youngest and the favorite child. Obviously, like you are. Yeah, you're perfect. We know that. I mean, why do you keep trying to say that all through this pod? You know? Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest things is the Hmong language, and you know, I've heard it said that in 25 years the Hmong language will be dead. It will be obsolete, and it breaks my heart to think about that.
It's sad.
You know, but I don't know. I'm gonna try my darnest. You know, and I look at my niece and nephew sometimes and I'm just like, oh, come on, guys. You know, like just the basics, you know, like just even like words for food. Like we're starting to lose that, you know, because it's like, you know, like just even everything is just like, oh man, like going back and trying to relearn, like literally talking to my mom and like, okay, mom, like how do we say this in Hmong, you know, and stuff like that with different herbs and, you know, but sometimes, you know, like we just have like, zhao.
Yeah.
You know, it's just vegetables or some green leaf, you know,
Yeah.
that's it. That's the only word we have. And so, so we're trying to preserve the Hmong language through like the food we do and, you know, stuff like that.
And I think what you're doing here is like great. And hopefully that will like teach the younger generation to keep this going.
Yeah, and if we have those Hmong Gen Z kids come by, I'm gonna be like, oh, you have to order in all Hmong or you do not get food. It's like, order in all Hmong for me, go. Gucci bao. Yeah. So hey, you know, it's so cool to kind of learn a little bit of perspective of you guys growing up, some of the things going. So I want to like really lift you guys up because I think that you two are amazing, and sometimes I feel very bashful saying this, but. I think one of the great things, like I'm just gonna make a statement here, Molly. One of the great things is this. It's like, you know how I asked you earlier about how do you connect with your Hmongness, and you're like, I'm still learning. I think you do that through your designs. And you know, I think we talked before, and you said that like when I do my design, it's simplicity. It's a reflection of you and your Hmong. Even the way that you did the design for the pocket for that T-shirt, like Hmong people look at that and goes, oh, that's Hmong. It's like, no. They'll look at it and goes, oh, there's elements of Hmong in there, and it really reaches out to me. That's why I love that design so much for that pocket. like the curves, even how, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we know all these symbols, but then when we start putting them together, and I think you're doing it. Like, you're that essence of, like, yes, like, I don't want to call you a rule follower, but growing up, being this, trying to be or being like that, the perfect Hmong girl, to be a good nya one day, right? To be honest, like that's what a lot of things that are fed into Hmong women's head, and I think it's really cool how, like, I see it in the way you do all your designs. I see it because everything's intentional. Like that's the beauty of it. Like intentionality is huge, because what intentionality does, I think, with you and kind of what we do too, is it's like little crumbs. And people are going, wonder where that came from. I wonder how Molly got to this design. I wonder what she was thinking when she was doing this. And what that does is it piques people's curiosity, not just Hmong people, but Mika people too. And they want to know the story.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I think that just with your brand and what you're doing is something that I really want to showcase to a lot of Hmong people out there, saying, look, if you took this path in life where you're like, hey, like there was expectations and I wanted to do this because, whatever the situation is, there's no like, well, I'm too far gone here. You know what I'm saying? But for you can still, what you've been able to do is like, no, but this is still recapturing like my Hmongness in your designs.
Yeah. I'm actually really picky with if I look at Hmong fabric, I'm super picky.
Yeah.
So you probably like pick that out. Like the design I used on the pocket t-shirt, I was so picky with the design. I'm like, okay, I think this is it.
Grace, do you have any say in that? Does she run it by you?
Does she run it by me?
Yeah.
She does actually run some of her ideas by me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Because you're the youngest.
So it must be right.
Yeah, you're a pony half of that. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the great things about it. And then for you, Grace, like I'm gonna pump you up a little bit, but when I first stumbled upon your page and I started looking through it, I'm like your name Grace represents you. There's a sense of grace in there, and I don't know, whatever. I don't care. I'm just gonna speak my mind now. I have a bunch of little nieces that are growing up. Mm-hmm. They're in that kind of tweener age. Mm-hmm. That are very impressionable, right? And the world is telling them what beauty is, mm-hmm. right? And what beauty should be like, and what do you need to show? If let's be honest, right? What you need to show off, mm-hmm. so that quote unquote society can think that, oh, you're beautiful because you need to show a little bit of this, or mm-hmm. this has to be a little lower here, right? I think the thing that blew me away with your page was like you never compromise that. There's a sense of elegance, beauty, and grace in it. And that's when it's like, that's when it hit me, where I was like, this is somebody I can align with. This is somebody that I want to introduce to my little nieces and say, hey, like if you want to follow this page, you should follow this page, because she's doing an amazing thing, and she's doing it without compromising. I don't want to say morals, but do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Without compromising things. Mm-hmm. Being beautiful, elegant, all those things that you are in the modeling you do, in the just even like the content you put out, mm-hmm. you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's something where it's like, man, there's this world of a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of stuff. And it's like, if I show a little bit of this, I'll get this kind of reaction. Mm-hmm. I'm not a dad, but I have these little nieces and nephews who are in that tweener age. And I'm just like, I talk to my brother-in-law and I'm like, bro, I don't know how you do it. Like I'd be like, we're gonna wrap you in bubble wrap. My niece is like beautiful. She's super smart. And it's like, I'm gonna wrap you in bubble wrap. And like, you're gonna just stay here.
And that's probably what every Hmong father feels.
Absolutely. I'm not a father, so I can only imagine, like with my brother-in-law, or I think of like my other little niece, man. She is witty, smart, she snaps back. And I know that there are boys out there who's like, oh, that's a challenge. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, like I will tame the unicorn or whatever, you know. And I don't know. I know dudes because I'm a dude, you know. And then I went, you know, going through high school and college and everything, you know, you've seen those dudes and you're like, you're an idiot, bro. It's like, no, man, I think she likes me. I'm pretty sure she said no 4 times. No, man, you just gotta be persistent. You gotta be persistent, bro. It's like, no, man, I think that's a no. You know, so, but I just think that the content you put out, I think the things that you put out, it's amazing, and it's something that I would be proud to, you know, tell my nieces and say, hey, like follow this, you know, follow her and see what she's doing and to hear about what she's talking about, you know. And so yeah, I think that's why with the both of you and the things you guys are doing, I'm just like, man, like people need, like we need to highlight Hmong people that are doing amazing things, you know, doing amazing things that how am I gonna say this? Doing amazing things that the greater culture is not looking at because it doesn't check off like do this way, wear it this way. You guys get what I'm saying?
I get it.
And then so it's just like for me, it was just like meeting both of you and then figuring out you guys are sisters. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great, you know. For me, it's like, man, like this is so amazing. Like I feel so honored, you know. And then even I think I've said this to you guys before, is like we get to, you know, I love inviting you guys to like these different events and collabs we have with all these different restaurants. Because like I'm so tired of living in a world here where Hmong people feel like, oh, some Hmong people feel like we only belong in St. Paul. We only belong in this kind of event. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's kind of like the creative things that you guys are doing. Where you're not held back going, well, this is what most of the Hmong people are doing, so we're just going to do this.
We're just, you pick and choose.
Yes.
And you don't have to stick with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I think for us, or I can speak for myself, I'm kind of, my personality is kind of a, like coloring outside the lines.
Sounds like a balai.
I actually made a design that says every day a balai babe.
Seriously?
Yep.
Oh, put that on a shirt.
I did it. Yeah.
Oh, the other one is like secretly polai. I think that would be or closeted polai or something like that along those lines where it's like you don't know.
Yeah, but
you know, and I think that sorry, go more about the coloring outside the line.
And I think that's kind of like what my clothing is too. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to do something different and what makes me me. And there's people who, if you look at like the Hmong like modern or just Hmong clothes that have like these like words and stuff, and everything is for me, when I look at all these Hmong designs, they kind of all look the same, and I wanted to do something different. That's how I see myself coloring outside lines and doing things that people will say, don't do that.
What about you, Grace? Like in the content you do, you know, with the modeling gigs you get, all that stuff, like how do you navigate that? How do you pick and choose projects?
I definitely choose things that I know I'd be comfortable doing. I of course will go out of my comfort zone, but not in, I guess you could say, an explicit way.
We're being honest. Like, we're adults. We're being honest. With this. Yep.
And I think just connecting through people, like with the content that I'm doing, I think you can connect with people that are all ages and of all gender, you know? And I think that's what I really enjoy about creating the content that I do. Yeah.
Do you have like for you, if you want to create some kind of content, like do you have like a quote unquote creative process you go through, or because I'll tell you what my creative process is sometimes. But go ahead. And next, you answer that one. Yeah.
Do you mind explaining that a little bit more?
Like, do you have like a creative process where you're like, hey, like, for example, like you look at magazines or you look at, you know, different other different influencers and you go, well, I really like what they're doing here. Like, that gives me an idea, right? Like, do you do that, or is it just like, hey, what, like the work that comes to me, I just kind of sift through what I should do or I shouldn't do? And the same thing with you, Molly, is like for you designing, like, do you have a creative process? Do you have like, you know, like it's like put all the kids to sleep. Mom's going to be in her drawing room type thing, you know, like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like a night owl. My creative side comes out when it's quiet at night. So I spend a couple hours at night just designing and I think a lot of it is also like Pinterest. Where do you go? Like Pinterest. And I just look at a lot of like Hmong designs and what I can do to make it where someone can wear a t-shirt every day, an everyday t-shirt. How can I incorporate Hmong design into that?
I definitely like go through Pinterest too. I'm a night owl as well, so like I do.
We're like FaceTime, like, hey, what are you doing? Kids are asleep. You can talk now.
Yeah.
For you, Molly, obviously, you know, you're like, there's no more noise. I can hear myself think.
Yeah, but like I usually have like a long day of work and I can't really get creative during the day, and so I usually get pretty creative at night, and I do go through that process of like Pinterest, finding inspiration through that, or I even I go back onto my own like content that I've created, and I'm like, how can I make this better? And how can I make like this pop or like catch someone's attention the next time I create this? Yeah,
I've seen some of your photos and they're amazing.
Thank you.
And I really, there's like, what I really love is like again, like Molly, intentionality, like even the way that you set up your photos on your IG, just like the intentionality, you know, like, yes, like, and then you look at it and you're like, man, like this all is beautiful, but then they're all, I don't know, it sounds weird, but like they're all different. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same photo, different color flip. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And that's what I like with like food, like with food photos, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, like you kind of move the cheese to this side or whatever. like, you know, like food photos, we always just say that like, the ones that get the biggest hits are like cheeseburgers with the cheese, you know, or pizzas, a lot of egg, like the egg, they call the sexy egg yolk, you know, you know? And so those are a dime a dozen, you know, but one of the, our, you know, director of communication, Lauren, like being able to work with her, she's super incredible photographer. And she has an eye for some, you know, like she's like, okay, I kind of figured this out where I see this. And she takes a bunch of pictures and I'm like, okay, cool. And then she lays the pictures out and I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, that totally is cool, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like for my process of food, sometimes it's like the most simplest thing. I literally tell people like, I dork out about stuff and I think about it for like weeks. And then it's like, okay, I gotta make this, you know, or hey, we gotta put this together. I usually talk to our CDC, Timmy, and I'm like, Timmy, I got an idea. You know, and I'll run to Schwanhers real quick and get a bunch of stuff. And they're like busy and I'm like making things. And I go, Timmy, check this out. You know, and we always joke that a lot of times, like, it's not real rocket science. It's just like, sometimes it's just being hungry. You eat one thing and you don't finish it. It's still partly in your mouth. And you put something different in and you're like, these flavors work. You know, and yeah, so most of the time it's that. But I think that for us, what's really important is the story, you know, we get to tell. And the things that we get to do. So, last question for you guys, and then I'll let you guys go. See, it wasn't that bad. Okay, if you can go back and tell, if you can go back 10 years, okay, and tell yourself 10 years ago, like one sentence, one line, one thing, what would you say to her?
I would honestly tell them to not give up on what they're doing, because with like the whole YouTube thing, of course, I started fairly young, and you know, friends found out, and you know that you can get like made fun of a little bit, and I think that's kind of what stopped me from YouTube. But I would definitely be like, you know, keep going, because you never know where this is gonna take you.
What changed the confidence? What changed it?
I guess I just had big dreams, and I was like, I really want to be a big YouTuber, a big influencer one day, or I really want to model. And I think just pushing towards that is what changed my mindset. I was like, you know, who cares what people think, because you're always going to be judged. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Did you have like somebody like speak into your life, or somebody where you can kind of pinpoint and say, hey, that was the encouragement, like that person, you know, was like the encouragement? Or was it like, hey, no, I'm gonna do this? and just, self-driven?
I think it was just the self-driven because I was when I do something, I don't give up until I complete it. That's just how I when it comes to like
Yeah.
projects. Yeah.
Sounds like the youngest mentality. Yeah. Molly, what about you? Like going back to 10 years ago, the girl from 10 years ago, what would you say to her?
Keep doing what you love. Don't put it off onto the side too long. I just posted something on Instagram, and my post says to invest in yourself and the things that are important to you. And I think that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, those are very important things. Hey, let's let the listeners know how to follow you guys, how to, if they want to get your product, or if they want to collab with you, like where would they find you?
Instagram for sure. I am on TikTok as well, but my Instagram username is gvang101, and my email as well.
Great.
My Instagram is with Molly Co, and same for Facebook.
Awesome. And do you have like an online shop, Molly?
Yes, I have an online shop on Etsy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It's super funny. The other day, I got a DM from this marketing group or something. They're like, "Hey, yeah, I noticed that you didn't have a Pinterest like board or whatever like for you. Would you like us to create one for you?" And I'm like, "I don't think you guys know who I am. I don't think you." No,
I get those all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just felt special for a half second. I'm like, oh yeah, this is some AI bot, whatever. I'm like, oh, I don't think you know what I do actually.
Yeah.
No, Pinterest, no. I had to do the whole Pinterest thing when we were designing the new restaurant, and they're pulling all these inspirations from Pinterest. I'm like, I have no idea what this means. I'm like, what, is the wall gonna be like that? They're like, no, that's the inspiration for the wall. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. And so in those early meetings, I was just nodding my head. Yeah, I go, that's what I'm thinking. So, well, again, from my side, super honored to have you guys here.
We are honored that
thank
you
you so
have
much.
us here
Yeah.
with
Stop.
you today.
I think that, like I said to both of you, like if people don't know about what you're doing, they should, because I think you guys are doing amazing things. Like I said, Grace, like all the things you're doing is like sticking to who you are, not having to be someone else to get the clicks, the likes, and all that junk. And then Molly, for you, is just like that full circle, being able to come back to be that creative, to be that artist, And I think that, for Hmong kids, we all need to see where it's like it's not too late. You're never out of the fight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there's no right or wrong, because I've heard many Hmong people, like my age, because I'm older than all you guys, have said things like, "I'm too old. I can't do that." Like I followed the direction of where my mom and dad wanted me. I got the job. I did this. I'm too old. I can't do that. And I'm just to those, kind of what you guys have been saying all day.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're not. And so
I think you're doing really awesome for the younger generation, though, letting them know that it is possible to be where you are. I think you've kind of like opened the door for the younger generation.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm still like, go get a degree. No, I feel very blessed. We as a company, as a group, as a restaurant, feel very blessed to be able to do what we can do. I think that it's pretty cool that we can talk about this stuff that we've always had to kind of keep to ourselves. Where it's like, am I the only one thinking about this? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I love being Hmong. I am 100% Hmong, but like growing up in Mi'kmaq world, like I'm also 100% Mi'kmaq. Like, how is it okay to live in both worlds? And that's what Hmonglish is about, right? It's the beautiful collision. I always say the beautiful collision of two beautiful cultures to create a third culture, And so, yeah. Well, I don't know how to close it, but thank you so much. So
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.